Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Join us on this week's Wrap podcast, where we'll have a chat through all of the weekend's performances. We'll spend about 3.5 hours discussing last week's news, and then we'll have a little look at our very own prediction table at the end. Let's get on with the show. You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrap Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always, Jamie, Nick and Harley. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
So you can tell I'm a little bit chipper this week, So we'll get to obvious reason on that later. But before we do, we're going to start with the news desk. Jamie's going to do the news desk. I'm going to go and have a quick kip. Nick's going to go and make a quiche, and Harley's going to go and put the kids to bed. And there's a lot on the news desk this week, Jamie. So...
Welcome back, Jamie.
There is a hell of a lot of news to get through. I'm going to quickly rattle through this as quickly as I can. But Lee, I did say to you, we might need to do a separate pod for all this news because it's out of control. I mean, some weeks there's no news. This week it's just absolutely loaded with news. Right. Yeah. So start with the Dragons. So new deals for Jared Rossett and Dylan Keller-Griffiths. Dragons also announced the signing of Levi Douglas, signed from Biarritz. Experienced 29-year-old who's had stints in the English Premiership, top 14 and now Pro D2. 6'5", weighs 20 stone, lovely jubbly. I didn't know he was Welsh qualified though. That came as a bit of a surprise to me. So Douglas is Welsh qualified for his grandfather, which is quite interesting. But looks a decent signing on paper at least. Big news, big retirement news. Dan Lydiate, the legend that is Dan Lydiate, he will hang up his boots at the end of the season. We all know the story by now. As a 19-year-old, Lydiate suffered a career-threatening neck injury. He was told by the doctors he may never walk again. But he recovered and he went on to become one of Wales's best ever flankers in the modern era, winning 72 Wales caps. And he played 3 tests for the British and Irish Lions. Absolute legend. Thank you for the memories, Dan. Scarlets news then. Plenty of news coming out of the Scarlets. So Scarlets have confirmed their leavers list. So 7 players so far are leaving the club. They are, some of these we already know about, but Steph Evans is leaving, Sean Evans is leaving, Johan Lloyd, Alex Craig, who recently signed for Glasgow, Charlie Titcombe, Ivan Jones, and Ed Scragg. Scarlets have also said negotiations are ongoing with other members of the squad, and they will confirm all players who have been retained for the new season in the coming weeks. So one to keep an eye on there. And in news that does make me smile, Jake Ball, remember him? Or Jake Ballsack, as he was once called by the BBC. He's in talks to reverse his decision to retire from professional rugby and rejoin the Scarlets next season. So Ball was playing in Japan for NEC Green Rockets. I think Pivac was the coach there as well, wasn't he? But he left the club due to family reasons, and he's returned home to Australia. So Dwayne Peel was asked about this, and he said he's a quality player. He's been a popular member of the Scarlets, and he's in good shape. So it does sound like a deal is going to be done. It'd be quite nice to see Jake Ball back in Wales. I was always a big fan of his. Right, Ospreys. So the news we all knew about, it was coming. Adam Beard is leaving Ospreys from Montpellier. Big loss for the club, big loss for Welsh Rugby. I've always said, and I will continue to say, Adam Beard is one of the most underappreciated players in Welsh Rugby. I will die on that hill. But the good news for the Ospreys is they did announce the signing of 28-year-old Ryan Smith, who is the captain of the Reds in Super Rugby. I think this is the signing of the season so far. I think this is an excellent signing. Okay, he's not the same as Adam Beard. They're very different players, but it's a very, very good replacement. So Smith has made 69 appearances so far for the Reds, and he was included in Joe Schmidt's 38-man Australia training squad last June. So a very good signing there for the Ospreys. Moving on to Cardiff then. So Josh Adams, he signed a new deal. Good news for them. 34-year-old second row Josh McNally has signed a new one-year contract to extend his stay with Cardiff. He's been a very solid signing, so that's good news for them. Wales Online last week was reporting that Dragons lock George Knott has signed for Cardiff. So that'll be announced in due course, I'm sure. In terms of departures, Rhys Littrick will depart Cardiff for a move to Edinburgh. And then moving on to news from WRU Towers. So the news was confirmed finally that WRU has announced that Dave Reddin has been appointed as its new Director of Rugby and Elite Performance. So Reddin has 30 years worth of experience in multiple sports, including rugby union, football and the Olympics. And then finally, then the new PRA still hasn't been signed. This is the new professional rugby agreement. Abby Tierney said there's no specific deadline, despite Richard Collier keyword given the regions a deadline of 15th of April to confirm their intention to sign the new deal. But Abby Tierney has admitted that they need to move quickly. She's also admitted that the other three regions have asked some very valid questions about the WRU's ownership of Cardiff and what that means for them. Talks are still ongoing with all the relevant parties. That is all the news I have. So I don't know if any of you want to pick up on that or anything I've missed. Feel free to include it. But yeah, that's all the news from a very, very busy week.
Yeah, a round of applause for Jamie there, Joe. That was Go on, Nick. You crack on, mate.
Lance Bradley stuck something out on message on X with regards to an interview that Dave Redding did with, I think his name was Dan and Dan Bigger, and he was actually very impressive. He's quite a reflective leader. He talks about the importance of strategy, but he talks about the importance of getting to know people and how he's reflected, even though he's got a really good CV. Looking back, and that happens as you get into your 50s and 60s, you think, well, I could have done things better if I'd have done it differently. I think he's going to be a good appointment. I think he understands the importance of working with people, but I also get the impression that he'll put a way forward. And I expect him to make some transformational changes in Welsh rugby. They'll take time to come into fruition, of course. We're so low, the baseline is so low. But I do think he's a good appointment.
Proof is in the pudding, isn't it? We've said this before about previous WRU appointments, that they haven't always turned out as well as we would hope. So he's got a very impressive CV. I will give him that. Yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding, but
oh yeah, sure.
On paper, it does appear to be a very good and sensible appointment, but of course we'll see.
And I just don't. I want to kick back a little bit of this. He's not Welsh. Well, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing.
It doesn't matter.
Maybe that's a good thing.
No, it don't matter.
I just think that's bollocks, farages, and nonsense saying that someone's got to be Welsh to coach to understand what's going on with people. What you're saying? Anyone who's played for anything doesn't understand the pride. Fuck off.
Yes, put a bit more bluntly than I would have put it, Harley, but I totally agree with your point.
As you can tell, I don't have a customer-facing role in work.
I think our first non-Welsh coach was Alan Davis, and he completely changed the way we start. When Alan Davis came in, we started talking about fitness and conditioning, and this is when the game was still amateur. So sometimes you need a bit of a change and a bit of a shake-up and all of that. So what about Beard then, Nick? Beard leaving?
Well, it's not a surprise, is it? The news. What's interesting to me with all these things is when they don't coordinate the announcements of leaving a club and the new club sign, or it's vice versa. The club announces they've signed somebody and the club they're leaving haven't announced it. You think they would maybe coordinate things a bit better? Now, are you going to be shocked if it's announced tomorrow he's going to Montpellier? No. We've known this since November. So, but yeah, he's as Jamie said, he's a very, very underrated player. And I think if you play in the same team as him or you support that team, you can see his strengths. He's got his areas that he's not so strong, but his strengths outweigh things he's not so good at. And he's a very, very good all-round forward. And he will be a miss. Of course he will. He will be a loss. I suppose we've, in some ways, through his injury this year, we've got used to not playing with him because he's been out for so long after his injury against Australia in the autumn internationals. So, and I do think Ryan Smith is a hell of a good addition. I think he's somebody who could really add something to the squad. So, yes, very sorry for Adam to be going. Wish him and his family well. But why wouldn't you go and live with your family in the south of France for double the money?
It's fair enough. It's just the fact he's gone to Montpellier and they're a club of
Yeah.
bastards, isn't they? That's what I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
like.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
know is what crime has he been alleged of committing?
Yeah, it's full of scumbags, Montpellier. Don't like Montpellier.
No, I agree. Out of all the clubs, I hope it's not true. I hope he's going to, cast or
I'd
somewhere
rather
like
he went to
Pau, yeah.
Saracens.
Harley, what about you then? I mean, a relatively calm week in Cardiff, judging by the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, it's still raw and what have you, but how's it been?
It's been all right. So I think the administrators' report's out now. So you're getting to see a breakdown of all the creditors, and it's really mad things like Cardiff owe John Mulvihill £6.88 for something or other. We already knew some of the headlines like the magician, but there's like a list of doctors and lawyers and all sorts of things, and you're just like, But I think there's some player rights as well that haven't been paid, and it's still pretty crazy, still pretty raw. Good news having someone like Josh Adams resign. That's that's a big statement of faith. That he's happy to stay in there. He's been absolutely fantastic. He sort of bucked the trend back when the time when teams almost didn't want the Welsh players coming into their side because they didn't get them to play. Whereas I feel like he earned his money. Play through it, excellent thing. George Notnew's not the most inspiring signing, but I mean, as a replacement for Seb Davis in that sort of second, third tier, solid enough. He's been excellent for the Dragons. Probably one of the best lineup poachers out there. Still hoping for another. We're looking to bolster the second row, so it'd be nice hoping for a non-Welsh qualified coming in. But yeah, I said it's been a nice. No news is good news for Cardiff at the moment.
And what about Dragons then, Jamie? How much are you going to miss? Legit, I know he's coaching team now, but is he? The influence on the pitch is still. It leaves a big gap.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't really featured that much for the Dragons since his return. I think he's been very influential off the field. I know he's highly thought of by the coaching team. It's good news that he's going to continue as the Dragons breakdown coach. So he's still going to be involved in the environment. I think that's very important. But we knew this day was coming, but it is sad though, isn't it, when a legend finally does hang up his boots. And Lydiard, I love Dan Lydiard. He is undoubtedly one of the best Dragons players ever produced, up there with Talupe Faletau. Even as Welsh supporters, we all have to admit how good he was. The chop tackle king. No one executed a chop tackle quite like Dan Lydiard. And when I think of Dan Lydiard, I always think of that game. I was at the 2012 Grand Slam decider in Cardiff. And he was outstanding that day. Like he had Dusautoir in his back pocket all game. Absolutely phenomenal performance. He was player of the tournament that year in 2012. That period between, I'd say, 2011 through to 2015, he was just world class. It is sad, but, it's inevitable. But I'm just glad he's going to be involved in the Dragons training environment because that's a lot of experience and knowledge to pass on to the younger players, isn't it? Guys like Owen Conker, Ryan Minto, Kobe Rees. They'll learn a lot from someone like Dan Lydiard. So, thank you, Dan, for the memories. What a legend.
Excellent player.
See, and mine is kind of like that as well. Only what
so
could
thank
have been,
God he's gone.
Well, no, for me it's like Steph Evans at the Scarlets. He had a couple of seasons where just everything he touched turned to gold, and he was like your typical maverick under Pivac, where he didn't really have a role. He put a 11 or 14 on his back, but he'd be popping up off a scrum, he'd be popping up at the back of a ruck and just running through second rows for fun. And I'm surprised he didn't get more Welsh caps in one way. I'm just trying to look and see how many caps he actually had. 12. He had 12. He only had one under 20s cap. He had 12 senior caps. And he probably should have had more, but Gatland liked, big boys like George North and Cuthbert, so he didn't really fit that mould. So, yeah, he was phenomenal to watch. When he was on form, he was just phenomenal. And the haircuts, since he discovered the barber during lockdown, the haircut there's been, I've done whole pods on the Scarlets pod where it's basically been, let's talk about Steph Evans's hair because the game was absolutely awful. So yeah, lots of fond memories. It is the right time for him to go. He can probably still cut it at SRC, but I suspect he'll pop up in Japan or America or something like that for a couple of seasons, and he'll be good. He's still a decent player, just not at the level that we need to be at now. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's great to have the memories, and it's good actually that people leave at the right time and not when they don't try to stretch it out and they don't try to eke out another 3 or 4 years of going, yeah, I can do this, and it turns a bit sour. So yeah, it's been good to have him. Okay, so before we move on and talk rugby, if you are liking what you're hearing and seeing, don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe. Makes a big difference to us and to you. You get to see all of the other podcasts that we do in the family. And yeah, so that would be really nice. And we are still looking for someone to replace me. You don't have to be the main presenter. I know I talk a lot. I do another set of podcasts, right, where it's just me. I'm looking for people to come and join me on that one. So it's literally just me. It's me to camera. It's about a half an hour podcast all about my town. And I had a comment on one of our YouTube channels that said, that guy talks too much. He needs to give somebody else a chance. And it's just me. So
Not gonna lie, when I first started listening to this pod, I thought the same thing.
So yeah, if you want to come and join the team, if you want to come and be the Scarlets person on the front of the show, if you want to come and join and do producer or video maker or whatever, there's lots of people who will be going away to university and this could be part of what they do and all of that. Just drop us a line, give us a shout. Be more than happy to have you on board. Okay, let's talk rugby, gentlemen. So in was it chronological order? There we go. That's the word. This is why we need somebody new, somebody who can remember the word chronological when they need to. Friday Night Harley, all yours. And I'm just going to measure how big the smile is when, as there it is. There's the smile. All yours, mate.
Yeah, what a game. I'll be honest, I'm still not entirely sure I've calmed down. I'm still not entirely sure we actually won. I'm still convinced it was a mad fever dream or something. Look, Ropey Munster sort of had the thing, but they're just indiscipline got better of us. But I thought boys dug in really well. The defence that we showed against the Ospreys came through again. Excellent on the line stuff. Everyone's standing up. Gabe Hemmer-Webb is continuing the tradition of the Cardiff 11 jersey this season, being an absolute cheat code to scoring tries most weeks. And they were just him and Adams ruled skies. Josh McNally rewarded signing his new contract with an absolute, just fantastic, one of his all-time best performances. And then we go on to Faletau, who, I know Caelan Doris is going to be the Lions' number 8 and captain, but look at Faletau's doing that for a Welsh region. Imagine what you could do in a team behind a competent pack.
Still world class. He's still world class.
He just is. He is. Someone described him as a Rolls Royce of a player, and I stand by. I think it's right. He's just such quality without kicking up a huge fuss. Makes yards. He can fish balls out of a retreating scrum. All right, that's probably not going to be an issue in Australia, but he's just so good. And if that is the last time you see him at the Cardiff Arms Park crowd, then that's a memory a lot of people are going to treasure. As much as I really was happy to go and see a weird blurry image of my unborn child, I kind of would have rather gone to the Cap. I can't admit that to my wife. Thankfully, she doesn't listen to the pod.
She's not in the room now, Harley. She's not in the house listening to this.
That's fine. Again,
past the door.
It's midweek, isn't it? It's midweek. She's back down in Devon. It's great.
Okay, just want to make sure that's
all. We'll keep that as our little secret amongst us, Harley. We won't tell anyone.
Won't
just
tell
us,
anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. You should have heard a response when we found out the gender. Anyway, absolutely great game. I think Cardiff's definitely the better side. We probably got a bit of the rub of the green for the referee in, which a lot of that was just Munster finding out this is how all the other teams in the URC are reffed. They don't, you don't get away with doing that over a ruck. But yeah, it was a hard fought game. We needed 5 points. We've got 5 points. So now everything's pretty much in our hands now if we want to make the top 8. I think the big one is going to be working out where in the top 8 we go, because I think Glasgow are Sharks. I fancy Cardiff to give it a good game. Bulls and Leinster probably be a step too far for us. But I said it's great that we're going to South Africa. It's in our hands. Again, Bulls in Pretoria is probably not a game we'll get anything from, but the Stormers, you never know. They've had their absolutely fantastic win this week. So in 2 weeks' time, they might be absolutely dreadful, as is the way they've been all season. So fingers crossed.
It was a great atmosphere there as well, wasn't it? That's what you want to hear. That's what you want to see in Welsh rugby. Excellent crowd and a really raucous crowd, that's what makes Welsh rugby special.
Also, shout out to Rob Toogood, who's the PA guy, for getting Zombie to play at full time. Munster song, there's just something just like, you knew he was a flanker in a past life.
Cool. Okay, so that was actually quite short, Harley. I thought you were quite restrained there. I was expecting all sorts of 25 minutes of how amazing being under WRU control. What I will say now, we obviously over the last couple of weeks, there's been let's say a certain section of social media that's been very vocal about Cardiff, and we both know who we're talking about because they used to be very vocal about the Scarlets, and now they've turned their attention to Cardiff. They went very quiet on Friday night, very, very quiet. And then they went even quieter on Saturday night. And I don't think they've been back on social media since. There's literally not a peep out of there. So not all bad stuff, Harley. Not all bad. So
yeah, always good.
Saturday afternoon, then Jamie and now half time. I was doing some work in the garden. I was kind of keeping an eye on the game. And I got to about half time and I'd watched a little bit here and there. I thought the Dragons were doing okay. I went to walk the dogs, and the first 15, 20 minutes of that walk, it's like by the side of the road, isn't it? So I can't get the phone out and have a look. So about 20 minutes into the walk, I took my phone out, and you're 20 minutes into the second half, and I'm like, what the hell happened there? And it was very strange watching that first bit and then going out and then catching up with it 20 minutes later. It just seemed absolute chaos. So which one of you two wants to go first? Nick or Jim? Nick, you were the home side. You can go first.
Yeah, I thought the actual Dragons started the game really well. They put a lot of pressure on the Ospreys. They got the basics right. And it was definitely a game for the first quarter, first half an hour of the game. You could sort of see the Ospreys were getting on top, and you sort of saw the Dragons tired in the game, Jamie. And as the game went on, that became more and more apparent. Very nice way to sign off with Adam Beard. It's a bit weird that we didn't hear more about, obviously, another Welsh legend. Justin Tipuric. Obviously he wasn't fit enough to play, but they didn't make anything of it. It was his last game for the Ospreys. He's missed that opportunity. Has he going to do a Ray Lilo and do one more year? So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Ospreys actually played some nice rugby at times once they got on top. Dan Edwards had a much better game than he's had in the previous two games. He varied his game really well, and he looked a really good outside half. The rest of the team contributed. I thought Morgan Morse had a very good game. He's still a bit raw, and he's got things to develop. Like when he made that fantastic break, he probably would have just been better off driving it on as far as he could and setting up the ruck. But luckily, we scored from that as well. I mean, he recognised that himself. He was a bit frustrated from trying to throw the wonder pass. But yeah, a really good performance. Nice to sign off the season. I thought it was really classy from the crowd to give Dan Lydiot a standing ovation. From the home fans and the Dragon fans who was there, because he, as we've already alluded to, he was a great. So yeah, in a similar way to Cardiff, even though we've got to go now and win 2 games in South Africa, which is a very tall order. At least there's something to play for when we get over there. So yeah, everything that's not gone so well the previous 2 weeks was an improvement, was improved upon. And if I'm honest, Dragons' second half we're quite poor. Sorry, Jamie.
I need to apologise. You're right. I'm not surprised at the result or that scoreline, to be perfectly honest with you. When I saw the team sheets come out, I knew Dragons were going to get thrashed. We have to understand and appreciate the Dragons have had injuries all season in the late teens, so we had 20 players unavailable for this game. I'm not excusing the performance. I'm not using that as an excuse, but it is important context to know that when you have a small squad and a thin squad, when you take 20 players out of it, you're obviously gonna struggle to be competitive. And that means you have to select a powder puff front five, a weak bench. I mean, if I'm being brutally honest, there are a lot of players in that team on Saturday that were just not professional standard. And that's a reflection on the state of the Dragons. It's just where they are. The first half was decent, particularly the first 25 minutes. I thought Dragons were on top in the scrum, actually. They caused Ospreys some problems with the kicking game. Harry Rees-Weldon on debut scored a nice try. A lovely delayed pass from Angus O'Brien. I thought we actually played some decent stuff. And yeah, they let the Ospreys back into the game. It was 14-10 at halftime, but you felt it was a decent half of rugby from the Dragons. The second half was just the same old Dragons, complete disaster. They fell apart. And if I'm honest, I think they rolled over. 47 points conceded in the second half. It's just embarrassing. Let's call a spade a spade. It was just embarrassing. The fundamentals let them down again. They lost the aerial battle because Sunday was having a field day up in the air. The set piece didn't function. The scrum really fell apart in the second half when we brought on replacements. The Dragons' defence was pretty woeful. 28 missed tackles, tackle success rate of just 69%. So that tells a story. And some of those tries in the second half, yeah, I know Ospreys did play some nice rugby, but they were very soft, some of those tries, particularly Keelan Giles, Dan Edwards and Kieran Hardy's tries were very soft. But I think those tries sum up what the Dragons are right now. They're soft and they're easy to beat. And there's a real lack of leadership, intelligence and resilience in this squad. And they are a very poorly coached side. As for the Ospreys, look, they got the job done. They needed that win far more than the Dragons, let's be honest. I thought their halfbacks were excellent. Adam Beard was really good. I'm not convinced Ospreys are going to make the top 8, but they have given themselves a shot at least, and they needed that. And yeah, fair play to them. They were by far the better side. But the Dragons, I'm afraid, it's just been another embarrassing performance and, quite frankly, an embarrassing season. It started so positively in that first block. Even though they'd only won one game, I actually felt we were making progress and we were competitive. But let's be honest, since the start of the new year, they have been an absolute embarrassment, the Dragons. They're not even competitive anymore. I don't know what the answer is. I honestly don't. But yeah, very, very disappointing from a Dragons point of view. But yeah, well done, Ospreys. Best team won.
I think the answer is to get Gav a new pair of boots and see if we can slot him in at blindside. I think that's the answer to your problems there, Jim.
I'd have him a tight head. We got an issue with tight head. I mean, he probably would have done better than the Newport RFC prop that we had on Saturday. But like I said,
And
that's
to be
just
fair,
where the
he's played a
Dragons
lot
are.
more of tight head this season as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I'd have him there. But like it just sums up where the Dragons are. For me, it just feels like they're a semi-pro team in a professional league.
Would you
That's
like
kind of
one
why I think they are.
Would you like one modicum of comfort?
Go on then.
At least you're not Exeter Chiefs.
I did watch that game yesterday, but the first thing that popped into my head was this is going to be the Dragons in South Africa. That was the first thing that did pop into my head. Yeah, I can see Stormers and the Bulls ripping the Dragons a new arsehole.
Yeah, I think
they
he's
will
probably
concede.
got the worst too.
Yeah, definitely. I said on the Dragons here last night, I'm not even exaggerating. I think it would be 70, 80 points in both games easily. Definitely the Bulls. Stormers maybe 50, 60, but that is going to be a very, very painful tour for the Dragons. They're going to come back broken physically and mentally. It would be less embarrassing if they actually contacted the URC and said, can we forfeit, please? That would be far less embarrassing than having to go to South Africa again, absolutely destroyed.
Okay. Well, we're not going to preview games this week because there's a week off essentially for all Welsh sides. So we'll preview games next week. So obviously the game of the week, as far as I was concerned, was Scarlets and Leinster. And I'm quite positive with this stuff most weeks, as you guys know. I think last week it kind of got to me, and it kind of the nerves got to me, and I predicted a Leinster win by 1 point. And I think I might do that a bit more in future. I think maybe do you know what we came up from the very kickoff on Saturday. So from that first kickoff, ball kind of goes a little bit loose. Joe Roberts nicks it, goes round the blind side, sticks a little chip up the line, and his foot was in touch, and it was in touch. But if it hadn't been in touch, we had 3 players on their fullback, 5 meters from their line, and that really kind of set the tone for the game. We weren't perfect by any chalk of the imagination. Costello had a really good game coming back. It was good to see him getting back in. Some of his kicking was a little bit rusty. There was one charge down and a couple of kicks that went a bit too far, but his vision and his creativity across the back line just opened up space for Johnny Williams and Joe Roberts just to really make Leinster look ordinary. So, somebody said today that was Leinster's 5th team.
It's a C team. It's not 5th team. That's harsh. It's a C team.
All well and good, but I doubt the Scarlets could put a second team out. If you take that first 15 away, I doubt we could even put a second team out. So well done on having the luxury of having a B team and a C team and however many teams you want. But you can only put 15 of them on the park, and there was some decent play. Well, yeah, it wasn't their first 15, but there was still
half
some
of those players
play.
are capped.
Yeah.
Like that was a fully capped in front row. You have Ross Byrne, who has more Champions Cup and international minutes than the Scarlets backline put together, minus Gareth Davis. Like that. Yes, it's a C team, but when your A team is Achis Nyman and fucking Geordie Barrett, a B team should be beating you. Leinster said, they've basically gone on about how they've got the right to put these teams out. Well, now you've lost. It's a bit like in the Six Nations when Italy were getting pumped by everyone's third choice players until they weren't, and then everyone had to start playing first choice teams, and then Wales started losing to them every year. This I'm not saying now that Scarlets are now just going to beat Leinster every year consistently, but if it happened, it would make my lifetime. So pressure's on the Turks.
Yeah, it was strangely positive for considering it was Leinster coming over here. It wasn't the usual, we're going to get battered. We didn't play particularly well in the first half against the Dragons on Judgment Day. It was quite poor that first half. In the second half, it got a bit better. And, we blew them apart. The front row, Alex Hepburn was absolutely outstanding on the weekend. I thought Plumtree just had the game of his life. Everything he touched turned to gold.
He only gave away one thick penalty. Only one thick penalty when he pushed him off the ball. Other than that, he's getting better with his discipline.
But he got a cheer for that as well. when he's, I mean, there's being late and then there's sending the guy a letter before and then arriving after the letter. So, yeah, but I thought he was outstanding. Caldor again, just like a fine wine. He doesn't need. I think I only saw him shoot out of the line twice, but it was at the right time to cut the wide ball out. And so yeah, it just everything came together. Sometimes everything comes together for you and it falls apart for the other team. And I don't think we gave them the respect that they used to. We didn't stand off them. We took it to them. We stood there toe to toe. We had something to play for. They didn't. We wanted it. They didn't. And it showed. So yeah, for me, the centre pairing, Johnny Williams, Joe Roberts, absolutely fantastic. Johnny Williams needs to be signed. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but when you've got a backline that's got, Costello, Eddie James, Joe Roberts, you've got Blair Murray, Ellis Mee, Tom Rogers, virtually all of that backline can and will at some point get called up for Wales. You've then got you've got to have something come in underneath them, and at the minute we've got Joe Hawkins and Johan Nicholas, and it's just not enough to do it. So yeah, I would love to see a few more signatures. I'd love to see Johnny Williams put pen to paper this week. I know it's touch and go. It's very much flip of a coin. It's 50-50 whether he stays, whether he goes. But the way he played on Saturday says to me he wants to stay. So I'm hoping that this. I know we've got some more signatures to come this week. I'm hoping he's one of them as well before we go to South Africa. So just that one final bit. Leinster fans, the vast majority of Leinster fans have actually been really gracious about it and really honest about. They got their backsides handed to them and they deserved it. It is only a couple of really, really mouthy ones that are giving it. You only beat our fifth team and all of that. So
I think that's true. Welsh fans as well. We all want. I'd like to finish higher than the Scarlets in the league come the end of the season. But what a great weekend for Welsh rugby. Three teams obviously won. One was always going to win because there were two teams playing. But overall, I'm first and foremost, I'm a Welshman, proud Welshman. Secondly, I'm an Osprey. So it was great. I think it's the first time that all four Irish provinces have lost in the URC for a long, long time.
March 2015.
Yeah.
March 2015.
And two of those against Welsh teams. So let's celebrate that. We don't have much to celebrate in Welsh rugby.
Well, before we move on and round up, if you look at the top 8 of the table now, there's one Irish team, one Scottish team, 3 South Africans, 2 Welsh, and 1 Italian. It's not been that mixed up for a very, very
league
long
as well,
time.
Isn't it? To have that
Definitely.
mix.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, plenty more to come. Like I say, we all head off down to South Africa now for 2 weeks, work on a bit of the tan, taking some rays, chuck a ball about for a couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon, and then come home. So we got a week off next week when nothing happens of interest to us, and then it all kicks off again. So that's why we're not previewing any games. Is it the semi-final of the European Cup or quarterfinals?
Yes, it's
semi-final.
Semi-finals, yeah.
Yeah, semi-finals.
Can I just ask one thing? Because you have quite rightly commented on the very weak, poor attendances at the Ospreys, and I can't defend that. I'm not going to try. But I was slightly disappointed by the actual numbers that turned up. And I'm not going to go particularly at the Scarlets. Dragons fans are tremendously loyal, given how well they're performing. But I do think it needs to be recognised. It's not just an Osprey issue around average attendances have gone down and over the last 3 years. It was a nice evening in Llanelli on Saturday night. Big game. It wasn't a bad attendance, but I'm not having to go with that. But I thought there might have been more 9,000-10,000 there.
I thought the same, Nick. To be honest, I thought this is the one that, let's say, I don't know what it was, but on that Saturday it felt like there was something special in the air, and it was right. So yeah, it was a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. I think they take that, and I think they put so much effort into games earlier in the season that they kind of pulled out all the stops, if you know what I mean. They'd done the previous players, they'd done the big extravaganza. So this weekend was meant to be fancy dress superheroes weekend, which kind of, I guess with all the news and all of that kind of stuff going on, just kind of went a bit flat, didn't really take off, didn't really get involved in it. My Wonder Woman outfit stayed firmly in the cupboard next to my Catwoman outfit.
Everyone is grateful.
Small mercies, small mercies.
But it could have been a lot of fun. It could have been a great day. So maybe like we said at the start, we were expecting. I think the vast majority of fans were expecting a little bit of a tanking, and there'd be nothing worse than being dressed as Batman and Superman when you're 50 points down to Leinster. But yeah, it was an opportunity missed out. You're right. I would have expected a few more there. Maybe next time it'll be better. Maybe next time we can but wish on those. Okay, so let's just kind of round up where we are at the minute then, in terms of like where we are as presenters in our little league. So Harley, this is all yours. Feel free to embellish and expand and rub Jamie's nose in it as much as you want. Jamie's been ahead all the way through the season, mate. And so, yeah, all yours, Harley.
Yeah, I think Lee's only wanted an extra special section of this because of who is first now after back-to-back best guesses.
It was always planned, games. Mate. It was always planned.
Peaking at the right time, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Peaking, yeah.
Yeah, so Nick has graciously decided to be dropped for the last couple of rounds because he's fallen to the wayside in fourth place on 121. I'm in third. I'm a one-season wonder, so on 128. Jamie is following like the Dragons and falling short.
Not that bad, energy in the last. Come on now,
running out of energy right at the end of the game on 132, and Lee has charged ahead with a massive 133. So yes, he is celebrating a 1-point win, but they all count. With two rounds left.
He's changed tactics.
He's taking it seriously now.
Yeah. Do you know why? I know what he's done. Yeah, I'll explain to you why. Right.
Go on.
Because he always used to do this Dragons by one, and he used to do it because he used to think it was annoying me, but it wasn't annoying me. I was very happy for Lee to do it because I knew it was screwing his chances in the prediction game. What he's done now, and don't think I haven't noticed, Lee, over the past few weeks, you have not predicted a Dragons win for a long time. That is why you're in the lead, because everyone knows if you're going to play this prediction game, you never tip the Dragons to win because they don't win. And that was what was screwing you before. So when you say, I'm going to wind him up, I'm going to say Dragons by one, I was like, yeah, keep doing it because that's where you're not winning. But now you aren't tipping Dragons to win. You're in the lead. I figured you out, mate. I know your game. I can read you like a book.
I thought you were going to point out the fact that he goes one higher or lower than you.
Yeah.
As well as that, but mostly he's stopped predicting Dragons wins. That's why he's up there.
To be fair, I stopped predicting Dragons wins because you were getting wound up by it on
I
the
wasn't.
pod.
I wasn't. I was happy for you to do it because I knew you were going to screw your chances in this prediction game.
Well, we've got 2 rounds left. So
that's
32
points. 32 points on offer.
Still,
minimum of 8 points.
That's a lot.
Everyone's getting a minimum of 8 points, but up to 32 points.
Yeah. Well, see, I like it when it goes nail. Forget the URC.
This is the one that
the
matters.
Rap Prediction League. This is where it is. This is where it is. And don't forget. So, Nick, before you joined us at the start of the season, we all predicted where I think we predicted the whole table and who was
I
going to
remember
end
listening
up
to
in.
that. I remember listening to that. It was really good.
I thought
So
we just predicted which team comes where, just the Welsh sides where they come where, and then how they do in the Challenge Cup, of which we were all wrong.
yes, we were nightmarishly wrong, but I've still got that to bring out for final week as well. So when we hit final week and we hit that, this is the end of season, regardless of who makes the playoffs and all of that bit. We've still got that bit to come as well. So there we go.
He's still about 50 points ahead of everyone in terms of total variance. So he's still the closest, all in all.
There we are.
Yeah,
see?
but
Lee's over 100 points out on that one.
Dragons by one. This is ridiculous.
You ain't doing that anymore, mate, do you? No.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we've got 2 weeks left of this season of the URC. And it's actually looking like we might have a few more post-season weeks, which would be really, really nice. So stick with us next week. We'll be back. We will preview the trip to South Africa. We will no doubt be test driving lots of sun cream. Nick, when are you actually going out there, Nick?
Flying out on Monday.
Next Monday coming. Next Monday. So
yeah,
weeks from that. Yeah, cool. So have you told the family that you're kind of visiting them while you're there?
Yeah, they know that.
Yeah.
It's a part of his family. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it now. And we're going on a safari as well, so that's going to be cool.
Very nice.
Just don't go sticking your hands in line.
No,
we don't need another stopover.
No.
Right. Okay. So on that, gent, one last time, if you want to come and join us and take over from me next season, please let me know. That would be very nice. Other than that, gents, it's been a pleasure as always this evening. Until next week, enjoy your rugby. All the best.
Ta-ra.
That was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.